What is going on, everyone? My name is Chris Vincelli. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the YouTube channel that discusses personal development, finances, and everyday life experiences. And in today's video, I'm going to cover a pretty important topic that I think pretty much everyone who drives a car has come across at some time, and that is to decide whether to lease a car or to buy and own a car. Leasing a vehicle and buying your own vehicle are two very popular options. When you lease a car, you're essentially renting a car for a very long time. Typically, you lease a car for about 3 years, and then at the end of the lease, you just hand it back to the dealer. Whereas when you own a car, well, you just own it outright. It's your car and you can do as you please. Both buying and leasing a vehicle have become very popular options for those who either want or need a vehicle, but both options have their pros and cons. And in this video, I'm gonna discuss the 7 things you need to think about, the 7 things you need to consider when deciding between leasing a vehicle or going ahead and buying your own vehicle. And the first thing you need to consider when looking at both options are the upfront costs. Now, when buying a vehicle, the upfront costs can be a little bit more hefty when comparing it to leasing a vehicle. When buying a vehicle, you either need to pay the full purchase price at the time of purchase, so that obviously can be quite a bit. Brand new cars can cost $20, $30, $40, even $50,000 or more, whereas pre-owned vehicles can cost a little bit less, but still are gonna cost you several thousands of dollars when making the purchase. Or you can purchase the vehicle through some sort of financing, like a car loan, but even when obtaining a car loan, you're going to be required to make some sort of down payment. Similar to how a down payment is usually required for a mortgage on a home, car loans also require down payments as well. There are some upfront costs associated with leasing a vehicle, but they're typically lower than the costs associated with owning a vehicle. Yes, a down payment will be required, but typically that down payment is lower than the down payment that you will need to do in the event you obtain a car loan. There's also a refundable security deposit that you need to make, and you will be required to make the first month's payment on the vehicle. But aside from the taxes and other registration fees you'll be required to make, that's pretty much it when it comes to leasing a vehicle. The upfront costs are going to be substantially lower. So when deciding between the two options, you do want to take the upfront costs into account. Obviously, if your budget is a little bit more limited at the time, well, leasing a vehicle might make a little bit more sense. However, if you do have more funds available, then purchasing a vehicle can be right for you. And that leads pretty nicely to the next thing you need to consider, which are the monthly payments. Obviously, if you purchase the car outright with your own money, if you paid the car in full at the time of purchase, then the car payments on a monthly basis are pretty much zero. However, if you acquired a loan, the payments you'll need to make on a car loan might be a little higher than the payments you'll need to make when leasing a vehicle. That is because when getting a car loan, you're typically paying off the entire purchase price of the car plus interest. However, when leasing a vehicle, you're only required to pay for the depreciation of the vehicle during the lease term, plus interest, of course. So as a consequence, your monthly payments are going to be quite a bit lower. All right, the third thing you want to consider is the ability to change or even get rid of your vehicle. I think this goes without saying, but when you own a vehicle, you have the liberty, the right to trade it in, to get rid of it, to sell it, to do whatever you want with it anytime you want. It is your responsibility and your responsibility alone. And money that you get from trading in or selling your vehicle can go towards the purchase of a new vehicle. So buying and owning a vehicle gives you quite a bit of freedom if ever you want to trade it in or sell it. Whereas when leasing a vehicle, your hands are kind of tied. You can't really change your vehicle until the lease ends. And if you do try to change your vehicle before the lease ends, the costs of ending your lease early might be just as costly as keeping the vehicle for the duration of the lease. However, when you do need to return the car at the end of the lease, you essentially return the car in the condition that's outlined in the lease, and you essentially walk away. All right, there are just a few more points I want to bring up, but before I do so, I do want to let you know that whether you've seen my content before or if this is the first time you're viewing one of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every single time I come out with other great and similar content. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and smash that like button. YouTube loves it when people like my videos. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'm a growing channel. I need your support. So go ahead and smash that like button. Oh, and by the way, I'm also on Instagram, so feel free to follow me there as well. All right, the fourth thing I'm gonna be speaking about is value, namely the value that's in the car. And when you buy a vehicle, when you own it, you essentially take ownership of the value of the vehicle. And yes, the value of the vehicle will depreciate over time. That's natural, that's expected. But whatever value is left in the vehicle after 5 or 10 years of ownership, you get to own. So when you sell the vehicle or when you trade it in, you're gonna be getting some of that equity. You're gonna be getting whatever equity is left in the vehicle. And that equity can be used towards the purchase of another vehicle, or it can be used to fund whatever project you have going on. But in essence, there is money in that vehicle and you have full ownership of it. However, when you lease a vehicle, you have no equity. So that means that you don't have to worry about the depreciation of the vehicle's value over time. Let's say if you have a lease of 3 years, you don't have to worry about the value of the car depreciating over that time. However, when you do get rid of the vehicle, let's say when you return it back to the dealer, you don't get any money back. You have no right to whatever equity is left in that car. You have no right to the value of that car at the end of the lease. All right, I got a few more points I want to talk about, but the fifth thing I'm going to discuss is mileage. And when leasing a vehicle, many times there will be mileage limits placed on the vehicle in the lease agreement, and you are responsible if you were to exceed the annual mileage limit on the vehicle. So let's say if you do exceed the mileage limits, you will need to pay extra charges for exceeding those limits. Whereas when you own the vehicle, there are no limits on mileage. You're free to drive it as much as you want, take it on as many cross-country road trips as you'd like. Whether you purchased it outright or if you use some sort of financing, it's yours, do as you please. The same can be said for the sixth thing I'm gonna mention, which is wear and tear. When you lease a vehicle, normal wear and tear is accepted. However, if there is excessive wear and tear, something that is beyond what would be considered normal, then you will be required to pay some extra charges. On the flip side, when owning your own vehicle, you don't need to worry about wear and tear that much. I mean, yeah, it's something you wanna keep in mind, but it's your responsibility. And no one's gonna charge you extra if your car wears down a little bit faster or a little bit more excessively than others. All right, and the seventh and last thing you need to consider is customization, the degree to which you can customize your vehicle. And again, when you lease a car, that car needs to be returned in pretty much the same condition as when you took possession of it. So you can't make that many modifications to it. You can't really customize it the way you like. Customizing and modifying it essentially breaks the term of the lease. And you're gonna be paying a pretty hefty price to whatever modifications you make to it. Whereas when you own the vehicle, you're free to do whatever you want. It's yours. If you wanna change the interiors, if you wanna repaint your vehicle, you're not beholden to anybody. You don't have to answer to anyone. You can do whatever you want to your car within the limits of the law. What do you guys think? Have I covered pretty much everything? For those who have leased their vehicles, what do you think of the restrictions in place in the lease agreements? Have those restrictions affected your experience when driving that vehicle? And for those who own their cars, what do you think of the pretty hefty upfront costs required of you when making that purchase? Has the purchase of a big ticket item like a car affected your finances in a negative way? Let me know in the comments section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And like I mentioned earlier, guys, whether you've seen my content before or this is the first time viewing one of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every single time I come out with other great and similar content. And I'll say this again, YouTube really likes it when people like my videos. So go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps the channel. I really appreciate it. And by the way, I'm also on Instagram, so feel free to follow me there as well. Thanks everyone. Talk soon.